where your breathing is just off and you can't figure out why. Nothing seems different, but it's a real struggle. Well, it's a super common mystery, and today we're going to dig into the invisible triggers all around us that create this personal respiratory puzzle. This quote right here really just hits home, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that frustrating feeling of knowing something in the air is messing with you, but you just can't pin it down. It feels totally random, like you can never get ahead of it. So you gotta ask, right? Why is this so incredibly common? Why is it so hard to connect the dots between the air we're breathing and how our lungs are feeling? That's the big mystery we're gonna try and solve today. Let's frame this whole thing as a puzzle, because that's really what it is. It's this complex, unpredictable challenge that millions, and I mean millions, of people face every single day. It turns something as basic as taking a breath into a constant guessing game. And when I say millions, the scale is just mind-blowing. We're talking about more than 300 million people with asthma, another 380 million with COPD, and pollen allergies. That affects up to a third of the entire world. So no, this isn't some small niche issue. This is a massive global health puzzle. All right, so to solve any puzzle or any mystery, you first need to identify the suspects. And in our case, the main suspects are these invisible triggers floating all around us in the air. So let's meet the culprits. We can pretty much split these suspects into two main gangs. On one side, you've got nature's challenge. We're talking mainly about pollen. And on the other side, you've got the chemical burden. That's pollution. Let's start with nature's role in all this. Now, when pollen gets into your system, it's not just a simple sneeze and you're done. What's fascinating is the timeline of what it kicks off inside your body. Within minutes, literally minutes, you get that immediate allergic reaction. But then, hours later, inflammation starts to build up. And the really crazy part? The after effects, like actual damage to your airways, can linger for days or even weeks after that initial exposure. And of course, just to make the puzzle even harder, the main player keeps changing. You get through the tree pollen in the spring and you think you're safe, but nope, then comes the grass pollen all summer. And just when you think you're finally in the clear, bam, fall hits with ragweed. It's a relentless cycle. And if you want to see just how powerful these natural triggers can be, look no further than thunderstorm asthma. It's a wild phenomenon. Basically, the high humidity during a storm can make pollen grains literally burst open, releasing clouds of tiny, super allergenic particles that get deep into your lungs. It can trigger severe asthma attacks across an entire city. Just a dramatic example of nature's power. Okay, so let's switch over to our other group of suspects, the chemical burden. First up is ground-level ozone. Now, this isn't the good ozone way up high that protects us. Nope. This is the bad stuff down here, created when sunlight basically bakes the exhaust from cars and factories. It's a super reactive gas that literally damages the cells that line your airways. And our other major chemical suspect is PM 2.5, or fine particulate matter. These things are so incredibly tiny they can sneak past all your body's defenses, getting deep into your lungs and even into your bloodstream. And the effects can be immediate. We're talking coughing within an hour of exposure. But they're also tied to really serious long-term problems, like more ER visits and, tragically, increased mortality. Okay, so we've met our suspects, pollen on one side, pollution on the other. But here's the real plot twist in this whole mystery. These triggers, they rarely act alone. In fact, their real danger comes out when they start to team up. This little equation says it all. When it comes to what's triggering your breathing issues, 1 + 1 is very often way more than 2. We're not talking about simple addition here. We're talking about multiplication. The scientific name for this is synergy. And here's a perfect example of how it works. Ozone, that pollutant we just talked about, can inflame the lining of your airways. Think of it like it's breaking down the castle walls. Well, that makes it way easier for the next attacker, say pollen, to get in and cause a much, much bigger reaction than it ever could have on its own. And there's one more character in this story, an accelerant, something that's pouring gasoline on the fire. And that's climate change. The data's just undeniable. Compared to 1990, pollen season now starts about 20 days earlier. It lasts 10 days longer, and the plants are producing a whopping 21% more pollen. The challenge is literally getting worse every year. So we've got the triggers, we've got this dangerous team-up effect, and we've got an accelerant making it all worse. But that still doesn't explain why you and your friend can be standing side by side on the same bad air day and have totally different experiences. This is where the puzzle gets personal. This is the last crucial piece of the puzzle. Just how different can our individual reactions to the exact same environment be? Well, the answer is pretty shocking. A stunning 5.4 times. Yeah, you heard that right. Studies of that huge thunderstorm asthma event in Melbourne found that some people had over 5 times higher odds of ending up in the hospital than others, even though they were all exposed to the exact same citywide event. That is a massive difference in how vulnerable we are. So why the huge range? Well, it all comes down to your own unique cocktail of factors. Your personal biology, right down to your genetics, what you're specifically allergic to, the medications you take, and even other stuff going on in your life, like how stressed you are or how much sleep you got. All of it mixes together to create your unique response. Okay, so this brings us to the final act. With all this complexity, all this individual variation, how on earth can any of us start to actually solve our own personal respiratory puzzle? Well, one thing's for sure, the old generic advice just doesn't cut it anymore. Being told to avoid high pollen days is kind of useless because, as we've seen, a medium pollen day mixed with high ozone could be way worse for you. The goal has to change from these broad warnings to finding your unique personal combination of triggers. And that really leaves us all with a powerful question to think about. In this incredibly complex dance between our environment and our own bodies, what are the invisible patterns, the hidden combinations that are truly shaping your personal health story?